Our economy has degraded, public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased, and yet your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern.
Now, after that clip had gone viral, Mike Pence actually came out saying that his full remarks paint a different story. So to be fair, Pence was likely answering a question that Tucker had asked several sentences earlier, but it just goes to show how Pence has a fundamental misunderstanding of modern-day voters. "That's not my concern" was trending on Twitter, and his official reaction was, "No, you have to listen to this 2-minute video to see what I really meant." Mike, it's gonna be really hard to hype up your voters when your voice sounds like NyQuil washing down an Ambien. Because sadly, Mike Pence's presidential ambitions became the first casualty of what Politico was calling the Tucker primary, where Tucker Carlson became Mr. Blackheart from The Simpsons, because he has enough ivory to make a piano after poaching all those rhinos. As Tucker did quick one-on-one interviews with former Vice President Mike Pence, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, current Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and entrepreneur and dark horse presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, Tucker didn't sit down with each candidate with a list of boring questions. He actually let the conversations flow while asking important questions, but then really challenging them on their more wishy-washy answers, especially when inquiring about one of the more important issues in the world right now, Ukraine.
The spring, you described the war in Ukraine as a, quote, territorial dispute. You seem to change your view and describe Putin as a war criminal and say that it was central to America's foreign policy. Why did you change, and where are you now?
If you're going to commit to do military, whether it's aid or whether it's troops, you need to have a concrete idea of what you're trying to achieve. And so my critique of the DC foreign policy elite is that they are doing a blank check policy without telling us when we will have achieved our objective. They then try to smear you and say, oh, you must be for Putin. I've always thought Putin's a bad guy. I still think he's a bad guy.
Which, that sounds good. We don't want endless wars overseas, but I didn't hear much of an exit strategy. But oddly enough, it seems that Tucker Carlson laid it out when questioning Senator Tim Scott.
Why not force a peace?
How would you do that?
Well, you could tell Ukraine, and they are a client state of the United States, without American backing, there's kind of no Ukraine. We're literally paying the salaries of their bureaucrats. We want you to sit down, as they tried to do, but were stopped by our government, and stop this war.
It just really seems that these candidates are just not prepared for a live show where they're going to be forced to make polarizing statements, and I think it's great.
Who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline?
I mean, I don't know.
I'm not claiming you did it. No. I'm just kidding.
Now,
he said
let me take a break here. I know we disagree on this strongly, but I respect your right to your opinion on Ukraine, and I trust you'll respect mine.
I can't let you elide over the question of the treatment of Christians.
I know. I heard
and
that
would
again.
you be? Well, no, but hold on. Would you be
problem is
willing?
You don't accept my answer. I just told you that.
Don't you think?
Let me explain to you what I think our national interest is there.
I would think you would have greater concern for religious liberty in Ukraine.
Because Americans are tired of seeing this, when America used to be seen like this. But the only person that actually seemed to have an America First answer was Vivek Ramaswamy.
And we are pushing Russia closer into China's arms by actually continuing to arm Ukraine. So what I've said is that I would negotiate a deal that ends the Ukraine war, frees the current lines of control. Yes, that means giving part of the Donbas region to Russia. I would make a hard commitment that NATO never admits Ukraine to NATO. And those seem like unspeakable words in certainly the Republican donor class. But we get something greater in return, which is that Putin, in that case, would have to exit his military partnership with China.
Where Ramaswamy actually earned points on border issues.
I think there is no basis for us to send our young men and women, our sons and daughters, people my age or any age, to go defend somebody else's border halfway around the world, when we should be using our own military to secure our own border in this country.
Compared to Scott's answer.
I wonder what you do with the millions of foreign nationals here illegally, many with fake papers. What do you do with them? Do you deport them?
I think it's a very difficult task to deport them all at one time. But here's what we make sure they never do, is you never break the law and become an American citizen by breaking the law. So
would you deport any of them? How many would you deport?
I think you have to start the process of identifying where they are. Listen, this is a really important question. I hope that we don't miss this. Because those folks who come into our country illegally, even those who are seeking asylum, go around our country, and some of the asylum dates for your...
And this is just more of that traditional politician speak. Yeah, he kind of touched on what his answer was, but like a kid in school that has to write a 5,000-word book report, but never read the book. Now, I did like DeSantis' take on the border.
This is something on day one. Declare a national emergency, mobilize all resources, including the military, stop the invasion, yes, build the wall, but most importantly, authorize the Border Patrol, authorize our military to deal with the cartels. If they're breaking into our country, bringing product, if I'm in charge, that's going to be the last thing they do, because they're going to end up stone cold dead.
Amen.
Which makes sense for Governor DeSantis. He made a name for himself with how he handles immigration and the lockdowns. So just like a rock band, he just needs to keep playing the hits.
Had I been president 2020, Anthony Fauci would have been fired, and you've got to be willing to do it.
Compared to Governor Asa Hutchinson's deflection.
And how many COVID shots did you take, and how do you feel about it now, in retrospect?
How many COVID shots did you take?
0.
And again, maybe it's just my age bracket, but this old school political gamesmanship just doesn't resonate with me. Just look at Mike Pence answer a question about 1/6.
Do you think that was an insurrection?
Well, first, can I just take a moment just to say thank you to the family leader, to Bob Vanderplatz and the whole team here, and to our friends at Blaze TV, including my old friend.
Mike Pence just sounds like a guy that was just asked, "Are you talking to any other girls?" I'm not mad, I just want to know. Because Pence knows there's a specific answer that we want to hear, and anything short of simply confirming that we're on the same page, 1, means that he doesn't agree, and 2, means that he's actually afraid to disagree. While Vivek seems to just dive right in.
You want to know what caused January 6th? Is pervasive censorship in this country in the lead up to January 6th. You tell people in this country they cannot speak, that is when they scream.
So for my honest takeaways of this very abridged version of an all-day event is, there was only 3 people that actually came across well. And in order, it was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Well, if I am the president on day one, we will nix central bank digital currency. Done, dead, not happening in this country.
Entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy.
I'm coming in with a clear-sided view, Glenn, of shutting down most of the administrative state.
Which makes sense. I just think that the average American is tired of these career politicians. Your Joe Bidens, Bernie Sanders, Mitch McConnells. Because when you live a life of being a professional mooch off the American people, it's nearly impossible to relate to the average person like me. Yeah, politicians create jobs, but it's more like they use my money to pay my neighbor while taking a huge slice for themselves. So veterans and businessmen actually seem to have a better perspective on what Americans actually want, that is, until they get coached into being a standard politician. But oddly enough, the person that I think came out looking the best tonight is Tucker Carlson.
I hope that we'll be able to talk about some issues. I know that...
Well, this is one of the biggest issues in the country, and I think every person in this room would agree. So Russia's bad, Russia's a threat, Putin's evil, got it. But the total body count from Russia in the United States is right around 0. Like, I don't know anyone who's been killed by Russia. I know people personally who've been killed by Mexico.
Frankly, here's
no Americans killed by Russia, hundreds of thousands killed by Mexico, but Mexico's our ally and Russia's our enemy. How does that work? And I'm surprised by your
I told you I raised the issue of religious liberty.
No, you spoke to one person who's clearly on one side of it.
As Tucker finds himself in a never-before-seen space in the political world, GOP politicians used to have to jump through the hoops of conservative networks to reach their audience. But Fox News is quickly becoming the New England Patriots without Tom Brady, or for my female viewers, In Sync without Justin Timberlake, or for everybody else, an adorable kitten without its fur, meaning that these Republicans need Tucker more than Tucker needs them, so they simply have to endure getting their butts tucked by Carlson. But unfortunately for the Republicans, they don't get news station simping like this.
I think his staff needs to own his age. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think they do a good job. He's 80. You need to be there for him, and you need to make a pathway, and you sure as hell better make sure he doesn't fall on a sandbag.
And now is it the staffers' fault that there's literally a compilation of the president losing his battle with gravity? So much that they had to pull out the play school steps just for him to travel. Because the only reason they need to deflect for him so hard is because his replacement keeps on slipping up.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Now, reducing the population in the name of cooling the planet is a whole nother video entirely, but at this point, we just need to focus on who is going to run against them, as the predicted website still has Trump far ahead, with DeSantis falling and Ramaswamy close behind. And in case you're wondering why Trump didn't make an appearance, it's because he doesn't need to, as he had his own event on the same night. So with the way things are going right now, DeSantis saying he will be no one's VP, I honestly wonder if Vivek would be the complementary piece that Trump needs, or would Kerry Lake better expand his draw, or some blockbuster crossover like Tucker Carlson and the TMF INR girl. So let me know in the comment section who you would vote for, and if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary on what's really going on in the world, hopefully I've earned your subscription, then go check out the video on how the invasion of Spain became a cautionary tale of liberalism.